back, and I hope you can all hear me. Welcome to my YouTube and my TikTok channel, FeloniesandPoppyseeds. My name is MissyLynne, and today we're going to be talking about onions and layers. Onions and layers. Not the kind of onions that you eat, but the kind of onions that you peel apart, and there's a lot of layers that you can get from that onion. Kind of like a lotus flower looks when you open it up, you know. So we're going to make up a fake scenario today so that we can use this skill that I am just, it's amazing. It helps me in my everyday life. It helps me on major decisions. Decisions like buying a house, a relationship, you know, starting or leaving one. Big decisions. That's what this helps me with, and I'm hoping that I can explain it in a way that it helps you. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this, but going as deep as I go with it is the point. So what essentially I'm doing is I'm journaling, but in a very different way. It's a way that you're actually having a conversation with yourself. You're asking yourself questions about the situation, and then you're answering it. And you tally down, you know, you have the opportunity at that point to answer it as many ways as you can or want, or as many options as you see that there are. And then you tally down from those, and there's more options. And before you know it, you've gotten to the root of the issue, the solution, the root of the problem. And hopefully along the way, you've eliminated a lot of things. And that's what we're going to pretend here with my scenario. So my scenario is going to be that I am the wife of a man who we've been married for about 7-8 years. And we have several kids, you know, whatever. That part doesn't really matter. I am sick. Thank you. I appreciate that. So the scenario is my husband, and again, please keep in mind this isn't real. My partner and I are doing just fine. I am not married. I do not have a husband, and I never will. So my husband is on the phone a lot, and I can't get him to conversate with me. Like, I feel invisible. And so there came a point to where I realized, you know, how rigid and upset I felt. And so I got my journal out and I wrote, Missy, why are you so upset? And this is the difference between regular journaling and this. And there's another name for it too. I'm calling it onions. But so I notice I'm upset. I go to my journal and I write my name out. Missy, why are you so upset? And I sit there and I think about it and I write back. Well, I can't think of anything. I can't think of a reason I'm upset. And then as I'm writing, because writing and reading brings out more thoughts, I think of something. I got irritated when my husband was on the phone with someone for an hour tonight, but he never seems to want to spend time with me talking or communicating. And then I tally down. I feel the tenseness in my body, and I'm going to show you real quick. So just all these little, you know, tally marks down. Those are all the different things that you hopefully find throughout this journey. This is a journey. You know, you're going inside yourself, writing it out loud, writing it on paper. All these questions, all these answers, all these different scenarios, so you can get to the root of the problem and make a really informed and confident, conscious decision. So I wrote, I felt the tenseness in my body. And then I tallied down and wrote, why did you say anything to your husband? And I put, no, I didn't. And then I said, so Missy, why? Why didn't you tell your husband? And I wrote, well, we made a deal. We made a deal to spend at least one night together a week, a date night, and then talking throughout the week, you know, as we go to bed. And it doesn't work. It never happens. All the promises, all the talks we've had, it doesn't work. So I'm super frustrated. And then it asks, if I ask myself, can you identify any other feelings that are coming with this for you? And I write jealousy, a little tally down in jealousy. And then I write over here, losing confidence as a wife. And then I write over here, and I'm beginning to make up scenarios in my head about what's going on. Because I don't personally understand why we've made this agreement to go out on a date night. We've stopped communicating altogether. And whether he's on the phone with his sister or his kids, it doesn't matter. It's spending time communicating, but not with me. And that's where the hurt comes in. And so I'm breaking it down as much as I can. And so I didn't say anything because it never works. It never helps, right? So what is the point? And we've been over this a bazillion times in our 7 years together, I wrote. And then I put another tally down because I'm not going to leave anything out of this. I'm going to get to the bottom of this because this has been obviously going on for 7 years in this scenario. Do I think he's cheating? Is a question. And then I tallied off of that and I put maybe with a question mark. And then as I was thinking about it, I put, no, I don't think that's what's happening. I think that's my own trauma from my own past of being cheated on. And I wrote that in there because I have a lot of friends who have been cheated on. And so I know it's a very real fear for a lot of partners, a lot of people in relationships. But what I did here is I discovered that that's my own trauma. And now I can get that out of the way completely. Because I know he's not cheating. He might be being an asshole. He might be being inside of himself. He might not be putting thought into, the need that I have as a wife. But he's not cheating. That's my own trauma. So I can get that out of the way. And before I've journaled thus far, my head's a mess, right? I'm worried. He's talking on the phone. He's not paying attention to me. What is going on? Well, I've listed several things that it's making me feel that I don't like, which is jealousy, losing confidence. And then when I start making up scenarios in my head, all is lost. And then I've also identified some of my past trauma, and I've been able to get that out of this picture, out of this scenario that we're playing. So then I put, so if you don't think he's cheating, why is this bothering you so much? Like, actually, why is this bothering you so much? And again, I put, because we made a fucking deal. And it's been a long time. And laying in bed next to him, watching him talk on the phone all night is just hurtful. So I'm going down the list here, and you can see, already, before I've gotten to any conclusion, how helpful this has been. I'm being mindful. I'm being conscious. I'm not just running up to him and screaming at him for not talking to me or talking on the phone or whatever it is in the situation of anybody's. I'm being mindful enough to take the time to search inside my own heart and my own soul to do this waterfall of words, of language and thought that is going to help me figure out what needs to happen. Because obviously at this point in this 7-year relationship, I've had it, and I'm hurt, and I'm over it. So I'm at the point to where I needed to do this kind of journaling, soul searching, onions. So I put, so what are you gonna do, Missy? And I always put my name because it helps me know that I'm literally conversating. And if you can't conversate with yourself, if you can't talk things over with yourself and figure things out, you're always going to be kind of flying by the seat of your pants. You have to have some kind of grounded. Like, you have to be able to know your own self enough to be able to answer your own questions and be real. This is from you to you, your higher self to you, you to you, whatever you want to call it. No one has to see this. You can be completely and utterly transparent in this. So what are you going to do, Missy? And I tallied down and put, I don't know what I'm going to fucking do. And then in this scenario, we're going to act like I walked away because I was so upset. So that gives you the chance, if you cannot come to any conclusion, any answer, you know, in that moment, give yourself some space. Walk away, but don't forget to come back. Don't just leave it. Like, that's the relationships of the past, right? Like, no communication, no, nothing. But here we are, 2023, and we have these skills and we know how to do work. And if you're not willing to do the work on a relationship, on putting time and thought into which house to buy, or time and thought into which car to buy, or whatever the problem or decision or situation is, if you can't be mindful about it, I mean, what are you doing? You know, you're making decisions that you may later regret. You're flying off the handle, and that also you may later regret. You know, you don't want to go screaming at your partner when you haven't even fully figured out what's bothering you. Yes, I know on the surface in this scenario, what's bothering me is lack of communication. But I'm going to break it down to the point to where I am confident and conscious in how I approach my partner with this. And this allows me to do that. So I come back to it, let's say, in a day. You know, I give it a rest for that night and I revisit it in the morning. And I had written, I don't know what to fucking do. So I wrote, coming back to it, can you name some more underlying feelings that you have around this? And I tallied 4 different things down and wrote, hurt, rejection, I'm not good enough, and I'm not desired. So we're getting down to some deep-rooted feelings here as a wife. You know, feeling hurt, pretty typical for a lot of people in a lot of situations. But rejection, that's getting serious with a relationship. Feeling not good enough, that's not okay. And not desired, that's starting some serious problems. So now you're looking at your pages and you're like, okay, well, this is a bigger problem than I thought. This isn't just about him not communicating. This is about the way he makes me feel because of not communicating. You know, if he has the ability to be on the phone and communicating with all these other people, why can't I get 5 minutes of his time? Well, making up stories in your head because you have the time to do it, you begin to feel like you're not a desirable wife. And then insecure feelings come in, right? So then I wrote, have you told him yet? And in this scenario, I said, yes, I did. I told him this morning. And then I wrote, did it change? Did it change anything? And I said, for a minute, maybe. You know, he listened and we talked, and he said the same thing he usually says is, I'll do better, I promise. So basically, this wife has experienced this for 7 years. Her husband being unwilling to engage in conversation with her, unwilling to make her feel not alone. And it's to him probably nothing, and to her probably enormous. And building, right? And building. So, what are we learning here? What are we learning here? We're learning that the wife is unhappy, and either the husband is clueless, or doesn't care, or doesn't have the ability and the skills to understand. You know, people in relationships are different than each other, and they need to go into these relationships understanding those differences, right? And maybe one's more quiet and one needs conversation. So is it something worth leaving him for? So you write that out. Am I actually thinking of leaving? Like over this? But I remember, it's not just over this. It's over the last 7 years of the same thing. And we do, some of us do stay single, and I did for a very long time. This is just a fake scenario because I thought a relationship one would be a really easy one and something people could really identify with. So what are we looking at here? Leaving? And then I tally down, the pros and cons of staying and leaving. And I didn't even finish this because it's not a real scenario, and I just wanted to get the point across. Had I finished this, I would have unraveled so many layers, and in this short amount of time, I already unraveled some of my own trauma, and I was able to get rid of that out of this scenario because it doesn't belong there. If you were cheated on before, but your husband is not the cheater, that belongs somewhere else. It doesn't belong in the relationship. You don't get to bring that to the table. Thank you. Right on. Thank you so much. So this kind of journaling, of shadow work, really, it eliminates your trauma. It eliminates all the thoughts that aren't realistic to this situation. We're still talking about not communicating. We've come to the conclusion we know he's not cheating. So then what is the conclusion? Maybe he's not much of a talker in person. Maybe he's on the phone with his kids because he's on the phone with his kids. And maybe the wife's taking it a little bit personal because, she's had promises told to her that they're going to do a date night and it hasn't happened. And then you can tally down even more. So why haven't we had date nights? And then you can look at it. Maybe it's because you've been super busy all summer and on both of your parts, there was no time. Maybe you can tally down and say, I try, he doesn't want to try. And so really the bottom line is, am I happy enough to stay in this relationship? So you're going to get down to that question no matter what your situation is. Is this enough for me to stay? Is this good enough for me to buy? Is this enough for whatever? Because you've unpeeled so many layers of this onion, you're at the middle now. You're at the middle of having to make a decision. Am I going to leave my husband over communication? In this scenario, no, I'm not. I'm going to come up with some new ideas because, again, talking to him didn't help. We've done that for 7 years, right? So we need to make new patterns, new waves, new vibrations if we want anything in our relationship to change at all. So now, I'm taking on some work and responsibility, and I'm okay with that because that's who I am. I'm okay with, he in this scenario, obviously the husband isn't much of a talker and doesn't put a lot of effort into spending time with his wife. It doesn't look like he's mean to her. It doesn't look like he abuses her. It doesn't look like there's cheating going on. It looks like there's literally lack of communication. So am I going to leave him over this? Do I love him? Am I falling out of love with him? Is he falling out of love with me? Tally down more, tally down more, tally down more, tally down more. When you get to your answer, you're going to know that it's the right answer because you've unpeeled it to where there's nothing left. You've unpeeled it to your core. And in your heart of hearts, you're going to know if leaving him is the right answer. And it might be in some situations. It might be. For this one, it seems a little harsh. It's made up, so I don't know where to go with it. But, you could put, okay, so let's talk about solutions then. Because no, I'm not leaving him over this. I do love him, and I know he loves me. So one thought could be marriage counseling. One thought could be he does this shadow work with you, once a week. You pick an issue and you work it out together. You could tally down these different ideas. And you could even at the end take different ideas to him instead of just coming up to him and saying, you don't communicate with me, I'm fucking sick of it. it hurts me. I feel this and that and this and that and this and that. And then he's like, whoa, because he had no clue that I've been battling this for a while, a couple days or whatever I said. But I am able to now come up to him and say, hey, babe, it's really hurting me that you are still not spending time with me, communicating with me, yet I see you doing it with other people. I see you communicating with other people. What is wrong with me? So I've come up with some solutions, and are you willing to take these with me? One, we could make an appointment and go see if we can find a marriage counselor. 2, we can schedule and stick with and put on the calendar doing some shadow work together each week, picking an issue between us or whatever and working it out together. We can do something consciously. And if this wife can get her husband to do this kind of stuff, maybe he gets to do, why am I not communicating with my wife? That's one of the best answers I've thought of yet. Me taking this to him, showing him how it works, and also then he has insight too. I got so insecure, I was thinking maybe he was cheating on me. I got so sad, I was thinking maybe of leaving. And that's just facts. That's not being emotionally out of control. Those are written down facts. So it keeps you grounded and it keeps you conscious. So my best suggestion for this couple at this point would be that the wife sit down and help him do the shadow work around why he struggles to communicate. Because then he's going to unpeel his onion and he's going to see all these different layers. And I guarantee he's not going to know they existed. Unless he's a super, super mindful, conscious guy. Which there are a lot of mindful, conscious people out there. But this is something to me that is life-changing. I can go like I have my whole life and write down, I'm so fucking pissed. My fucking husband never fucking talks to me. I'm ugly, blah, 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 blah. Like I used to journal. And that's not conducive in any way, shape, or form. This is so conducive. This is so helpful. Like, this is the way to do shadow work. You break it down. You break it down till you literally cannot break it down anymore. It's like quantum physics. You just keep breaking it down. All the way down, infinity, whatever. That's a joke. But, and then you have an opportunity to teach him how to do shadow work. Okay, so let's sit down. What's the problem? I don't communicate with my wife. What are your feelings around that? And it's going to take longer for someone who's never done it. They're not going to be able to just really feel it and bust it out like someone who does it all the time. But if he's willing to learn this, then you've won everything. Not only have you been able to go communicate with him in a emotionally stable, conscious way, but he is now doing the same. And he's doing the work for himself on why he struggles to communicate. And this was, like I said, one of the best things I could think of. If you guys have any great ideas, I would love to hear them, and I'll break it all down for you. It's really an awesome way of journaling, and I journal everything in this way. Around my daughter, around decisions, around feelings, like where they're coming from. And I always come up with an answer. Because what I've done is I've bared my soul. I've taken every single fucking layer off. And I've bared my soul and I'm sitting here looking at it. There's my answer. So I hope that made sense. I really do. I did this last night and it was like perfect. And my phone got all fucked up and erased half of it. So that's why I'm redoing it. And I can only hope that it's even half as good as the one I did last night. Because this is really important. So if you find yourself, feeling like something's wrong. Or you and your partner together even facing a decision together. Sit down. Get out some paper and a pen. I have this whole journal. It's just filled from front to back with, you know, things I talk right out from my podcast and all of my journaling. I do a lot of journaling and onion work over my podcast as well. You know, it gets me to the end result. To the end result. And when there's nothing left to write, you know you've arrived. And if you still have a big decision to make, so if you get to the point to where you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna leave him, you know, I don't know. You know, that's how serious I'm feeling about this. We've been doing this for 7 years, and I'm kind of leaning towards leaving him. Well, then you do the shadow work on that. What does it look like if you leave him? How are you going to feel if you leave him? Who else is it going to affect? Is it going to affect kids? Do you have kids? You know, is it going to be better for both of you? Is it a better option? Or is trying to work it out a better option? So you just... So I hope that was easy to understand. And if you have any questions, as always, please put them in the comments. I'm going to be posting this on my YouTube channel, which is the same YouTube, or Felonies and Poppy Seeds, with no spaces. And I think that I would absolutely love to hear that you guys used this in some kind of a problem or issue that you were facing. You really can't go wrong. Like, you really can't go wrong unless you're not honest with yourself. That's where this won't work. That's like the one scenario where this won't work. If you don't know how to be honest with yourself, it's not going to do anything. So it kind of does come into play after you've done a lot of self-work, a lot of self-healing. You know, but this can be a beginning for you. You know, this for me came towards kind of the end of my journey. But had it come at the beginning, I think it may have really sped things along for me and made things a lot easier for me. Because this is just fucking amazing. And how easy is it to write down how you feel, ask yourself some questions, answer them truthfully, reflect on them, look at them, tally down more and more and more and more until you're completely unpeeled and exposed, and you know what your soul answer is. It's really amazing. And I'll make up another one. This is really messy. But I'll make up another one that I can post so you guys can see how I do like the waterfall. And this may not be new to you, but maybe it's a new perspective. Maybe it's a new spin, or maybe it's a new reminder. You know, this shadow work, this journaling, this onion work. I'll never forget it, calling it onion, the work of the onion. You know, if you can remember that, when you're feeling something you don't even understand you're feeling, maybe, which is what this scenario started out with. You know, I felt upset, it says, and that felt unusual. So I asked myself, the first thing I asked myself is, why are you so upset, Missy? So you start from the very beginning, and you go all the way to a completely exposed and raw. And then you have nothing left to get in the way. You don't have any mess here. Like, it's right there. You either decided, let's say we decided to stay together, and he agrees to do shadow work with you once a week, starting once a week. So you sit down and you talk about, you know, in my situation, his name's, my partner's name is Randon. So I'm going to use that. Randon, why do I struggle to communicate with my wife so much? And then help him. You know, if he needs help, if he doesn't, let him go. Let him go expose his soul to himself, you know? You can only get better from that, right? I don't know what bad can happen from that. Even if it ends up that you're leaving, then that's what needed to happen. You know, and that's why it's kind of silly talking about communication and divorce. But you're going to be left with the right decision. And you're going to be able to be confident in it because what this is consciousness. This is being 100% conscious on what is happening in your life, your brain, your heart, your soul, and your body. And you just can't go wrong with that. So I have one more announcement, and I'm really sad to make it. Brandon, who we were going to do the podcast tonight around how he lost his wife to alcoholism. He got called out on a fire and won't be back for a while. And so I have to cancel that podcast for tonight. And I will try to replace it as best as I can. But last minute I won't be able to get a guest speaker. So if there's any topics you would like me to do a podcast on tonight in place of that, I will. Put them in the comments, and then I will reschedule once I know how long he's going to be gone, and all those things. It just happened early this morning. He got a call that, there was a fire, and he had to just bail. Like, I hardly even got to talk to him. Because of that fucking communication. I'm just kidding. This is not real. I'm just kidding. But he really is gone on a fire. And so good vibes to him. Safety, all the things. Always makes me nervous. But anyways, I hope this helps. And I hope you got something out of it. Just remember, onions, when you're feeling uncomfortable, when something's wrong, when something's bothering you, when you cannot make a decision between two amazing things or two awful things or whatever it is, remember onions. Peeling your onions. And then maybe it'll help you remember to do this shadow work. And this shadow work, I promise you, it's going to help you with everything for the rest of your life. I promise. Have a good day, guys. I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you tonight. Doing the best I can without my guest speaker on my podcast.